right. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Cape Coral Charter School Governing Board. Today is Tuesday, May 7th, 2024. It is 5:35 p.m. and we are meeting at the Oasis High School. My name is Christopher Jackson for the record, and I'm bringing this meeting to order. First, can we have a moment of silence? Thank you. Can we now please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Give a little flag up here in the corner. Will do.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You can be seated. All right. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Monticelli.
Present.
Jackson.
Present.
Long, District 6.
Present.
Michaels.
Present.
Minaya.
Present.
Pease.
Here.
Stout. Here. Harris Representatives. Hoagland, OHS. Present. Shade, OFS.
Present.
Soto, OES. Soto, OES. Rizzo, OEN.
Okay, that brings us to agenda item number 5. We have our approval of minutes. May I have a motion to approve 5A?
Motion to approve. Second.
Do we have any discussion on the approval of 5A? None being seen. Anybody want to pull anything? All right. All right, let's take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That will bring us to 5B. May I have a second to approve 5B?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a second. All right. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Brings us to agenda item 6A, which is the approval of the agenda of the regular governing board meeting of May 7th, 2024. Can I get approval?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to item 7. We have public comment. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per individual for a maximum of 45 minutes for total comment time. Do we have any public comments? Mr. Shadrack, great. We have a podium up over here. If you just state your name for us before you start. Want me to look for it? Yeah, you like to, sure.
Good afternoon, Tom Shadrack, just a citizen. I know quite a few of you. Nice to see you all. I got interested in the budgets at Cape Coral in general. About 5 years ago, someone asked me to look at the Parks Go bonds, see how they were performing, and it was a disaster. It took me 6 months to peel that onion to understand the problems with it, and they ended up running, at this time, $40 million over their budget, for a $60 million plan. So very problematic. That got me involved in more of the city finances, and then when we, the council chose to use the public service tax to help fund the charter school, that got me real interested in the charter school and what was going on. But I think I was opposed to that. It was a harsh thing to do to our fixed income and poorest people, that they would charge $27 across the board for everybody, and they had to pay that burden. So that created 2.6 million or 3.2 million, something like that, to use for the charter school. Now you're having this increase of money, so there was discussion at the council meeting about reinstating the exemption to 500 kilowatt to give that money back to the citizens. Right now, the resolution is written by our legal with Mr. Mason, didn't even talk about the funds going to the charter school. So it's interesting, it just got rid of the exemption. And what does the money do? The other interesting thing, LCEC increased the 500 kilowatt charge by 50%. So actually, the city is collecting $4 million a year on the first 500 kilowatts. So there's all kinds of interesting little issues there on how that helps the charter school or what the city wants to do with that money. The other thing, charging the city to build this football stadium is another controversial issue when it comes to the citizens having to pay more of their tax dollars for something in a park or a stadium like that was never in the 10-year plan as far as being a city park. So there's a lot of controversial issues out there, and picking up the maintenance of the facility. And I know I saw on the chart that $3 million comes back to the city, and you guys had a good discussion there about the staff, the administrative staff going back to the city, and we're charging you back that $3 million. I don't see that, I don't see that in either person's budget, how that money transfers back and forth. So I'm just an interested party to see how all that works, and that everything works well, and we're using all our money efficiently. But I see what you're doing. It's a great school. I'm all for education. I have 3 children that are all master's students. I have a master's degree. I'm for education. I think you guys are doing a great job for the kids. And I like competition. The fact that we have a charter school versus Lee County, it's always good competition. So I appreciate that. I got 45 minutes, all right.
Yeah, 3?
Just kidding. Okay.
We appreciate it.
Good to talk to you guys. And I'm going to be leaving a little early. I'm going to go listen to the yacht club somewhere.
Thank you, Mr. Shadrack. Do we have any more public comments? Do we have any comments on public comments? All right, that being said, we will close public comment, and we will move on to our next agenda item, which is 8A, request for approval of the NOLA policy update as listed, proposed in the policies. There was a whole vast list of them. If you've clicked on the link, you've seen them. Mrs. Collins, would you like to discuss anything on this?
I don't have anything to discuss unless a board member has one that they'd like to discuss. When I update policies, it's generally provided from the state of Florida. The updates provided by law, and we have to tweak our existing policies to make sure that they match. And that's pretty much, and they come all at one time. So there's probably 50 policies here that are ready for your approval, and there's another 50 that are coming next month that will be ready.
And this is a company that is tasked with just creating policy for schools, correct? That's what they do, and that's their wheelhouse and their forte. So, yeah, we would be wise to accept the policies that they create. So. All right, may I get a motion to approve 8A?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the topic? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That'll bring us to 9A. We have the superintendent's report. Mrs. Collins, please.
Can everybody hear me okay? Kathleen, are we good?
Yeah, I'll give you the microphone.
You good?
And just as a reminder, please, when we're speaking, let's use our microphones, because I hear a lot of parents that listen to these meetings say that they a lot of times can't hear what we're saying, we're cutting them out a lot. So we just have to be more cognizant and aware that we use our microphones, okay?
Welcome, everyone. Jackie Collins, Superintendent. I'm going to be spending my superintendent report speaking about Victory Park and an MOU that was sent our way. We've had multiple conversations about expanding the charter school system due to a variety of reasons. We have an extensive waiting list. We have students that can't get in that want to get in. We have classrooms that are in closets at the moment. We have classrooms that are on carts. We just recently received additional capital funding from the local capital improvement from Lee County. So it seems to us that all the stars have aligned. However, what I'd like to speak about this afternoon is about expansion, because we're ready to do that. We're ready to serve the community with the demand that our system provides. And because of that, I'd like to talk about Victory Park. It is an innovative, I believe it's a $400 million master plan development in the southeast section of Cape Coral. It's a veteran-centric life science campus that's going to host a whole variety of different avenues: multifamily housing, specialty educational facilities, medical offices, hotels, real estate amenities. And this campus is going to partner with Veterans Hospital, that's already up in that location, Lee Health for residency programs, for residencies for physicians and nurses, and also several post-secondary organizations, universities and colleges, with the goal of offering higher ed employment opportunities for those of us in Southwest Florida. So there's an educational component to this master plan, and that is one that's a reverse engineered design educational pipeline. And so what Victory Park would like to do, when I say Victory Park, I mean Blue Waters Development. Danny Aguirre is here. What the goal is of this master development is to produce a willing and capable workforce for those that live on the campus and in Southwest Florida. So Blue Waters intends to build a high school to seat 1,000 to 1,500 students, also faculty housing, and an incubator facility for student startups. They're looking for a pipeline of students to help fill this high school based on a collaborative belief that the most important things that we should be teaching in this day and age are STEM, robotics, biohealth, and technology, to name a few. And that's where OASIS comes in. Because as you already know, our pathway, K through 12, has been built on STEM, robotics, biohealth, entrepreneurship, design, and marketing. So we really feel that OASIS would be a wonderful fit in this environment at Victory Park. So what I'd like to recommend to the board, and I've given you the MOU that's been presented from Victory Park. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for the charter school system to do exactly what we've been talking about doing for the last several years, which is expand. Now, we know that the charter school authority, which is the board, doesn't have the ability to buy land, enter into a lease, construct a facility without the city council's approval. And that's what we would need to enter into an agreement as the ultimate end product would be to have Blue Waters Development build a facility that OASIS can house, and our pipeline would help fill it, with the goal to provide, those that wish to stay in the community, work, and produce our workforce that we so desperately need. So, Danny's here, and he's here to answer questions of the board. The MOU is one in which we would sign an agreement so that we could collaborate on educational programs that the high school would benefit from. The programs that we basically have in place already that we'd like to expand on. We would also co-market this endeavor if it came to fruition. But the basic premise for this MOU now is to collaborate on these programs and see how we fit together, how we can help each other, and how we can move forward to offer the community what we can already provide on a limited basis. So, I'm going to call up Danny, if you would be so kind as to come up and answer some of the board's questions about what this MOU entails and how this collaboration between OASIS and Victory Park can come to fruition.
Good afternoon, everyone. Do you want to start off with questions, or?
I think we would like maybe a little presentation of what you foresee this to look like.
A little bit of an overview.
Yeah.
So Victory Park sits in the northeast region of Cape Coral. Originally was 140 acres. As of maybe 60 days ago, we acquired four properties across the street, which now makes it 270 acre acquisition in the city of Cape Coral. The project was originally, the concept came from a project in Denver, Colorado called the Anschutz Medical Center. The Anschutz Medical Center, when you drive into this project, you have the VA and you have an Army Reserve base. And what did they do? They brought in the University of Colorado, they brought in biohealth, they brought in technology, veteran services, veteran housing, student housing, and made an amazing life science campus out of this vision. We walked away from that a few years ago and said, that is the vision we want to bring to Southwest Florida. Power went out. So with that, the veteran-centric life science campus is 270 acres. It consists of education, hospitality, medical services, essential workforce housing, faculty housing, veteran services, veteran senior housing, and workforce training. Mrs. Collins talked about the goal and reverse engineering the pipeline. So let's talk about the goal. What is the goal for our community? The goal is to create a ready, willing, able, and capable workforce. And in order to get to that goal, still not working. In order to get to that goal, we have to reverse engineer that pipeline. What does that consist of? Well, first off, the key to the solution is to get to the students younger. Because go try to tell a high school student, here's this college opportunity, or here's a career opportunity. By the time they graduate high school, it's too late. So the key is to get to them younger. And as we're working through this, we have the VA at the table. We have major medical providers at the table. We have the business community at the table. We have the federal government at the table, the state government at the table, the city and the county all at the table. In addition to over 22 veteran service organizations at the table, Career Source at the table, and now we have a major state university at the table. So as we continue to think through this pipeline, having a school, a high school system that can focus on STEM, robotics, entrepreneurship, and working through digital marketing and biohealth will help create and further enhance this pipeline. So when we look at the county school system, the numbers are maxed. Every school is maxed. When you hear a superintendent talking about having to hold classrooms in a closet, that has to be addressed. But yet when you look at the county's budget for 12 schools, $1.5 billion. That's an average of $125 million per school. How are we going to get that money? So now, as a county or as the school system, we have to put on our developer hat, our designer hat, our landlord hat. We have to go raise the money. We have to go through all the politics. In this particular case, we see an opportunity where the public and private sectors come together and collaborate. We have an opportunity to design and develop a school where Oasis Charter School can become a tenant at Victory Park. And through this program, it would have a focus of STEM, robotics, biohealth, entrepreneurship, digital marketing, which all goes and feeds right into the pipeline that we're working on. We also see this campus including a state-of-the-art sporting facility and also fields. We also see it as an opportunity to host Friday Night Lights for the Oasis Charter School System. We also envision, as part of the campus, faculty housing. Now think for a minute what that does to recruit and retain teachers. That's a big help. And nowadays we need to collaborate to create solutions. So we're here to collaborate. And what this MOU does, this MOU brings the team together. It brings the Oasis Charter School System to the table, which we can now bring the university system, connect the VA, connect the major medical providers to the table. And here we have this high school system that is a critical and important part in the process. And together, this ecosystem at Victory Park, it will become an extraordinary place to be able to live, work, and learn. So open it up for questions.
I know we have some questions for sure, so I'll start with Mr. Peace, please.
Mr. Peace, how are you, sir?
Yeah, do we have another mic that we can use? We have a second mic. I apologize. Let me preface this by saying, first, thanks for everybody for shifting and making this meeting happen. This is part of the reason we did it, was to speed it up so that we could get this moving a little bit. So, yeah, usually we'd be in council chambers where we'd have some of the technologies that we use, so please.
So first of all, I think the vision is amazing, and I think this would be a win-win for everyone. We can make it happen. I have some questions about that may be more directed down here, but I'll go back to the Capitol. You know, obviously with this MOU, we'd be agreeing to collaborate along the way with co-branding and such, with the ultimate goal of taking on a lease. To build a school, I know you threw out the average $125 million, but to build a school that you're talking about with 1,500 students potentially, with sports fields and such, I know the Hector Caparata project right now, the K-8 that they're building over southwest of Mariner High School, is somewhere around $130+ million. They haven't fully negotiated it yet. But it seems like this is probably a $150+ million project. And I see Danny shaking his head, so it sounds like that's probably the thought. The lease, I assume, would be the debt service, right, at the end of the day. And so what I would love to see is some sort of analysis, and we have the numbers. We know, you know, with 1,500 students, what the general FTE would be. We know how many staff it would take, you know, if we were to model it off of what we do here. I would like to see some numbers. Now, that's not going to preclude a decision today. I'm going to support this. But I think it's really important that we look at the numbers, big picture, to see if this is even realistic at the end of the day. And then the second, so I'm curious to know more about where those capital dollars might come from, if you thought about it. And I've tried personally to raise a lot of money for capital funds for an expansion of the school, and I know it's very, very hard to get capital contributions, and everybody says public-private partnership. We'll get the Sam Galloways of the world and these people to pitch in. Getting people to pitch in millions and millions of dollars is hard. So that's my question to you, Danny, and then I do have another follow-up which has to do with whether this should actually be a high school or a 6 through 12 school. Have some commentary on that. That we can come to. I'll go ahead and say it now, and we can continue that conversation. But I used to work for multiple charter management organizations and charter systems in Chicago that had schools of this nature, where you had elementary schools that fed into middle schools that fed into a high school. And one of the things that makes charter school systems like this incredibly unique is culture. And that culture only happens because the students are in the system from the very beginning, or the majority of them, right? And so if you add a high school that has 1,500 students, you're not going to be able to fill it with the feeder pattern students coming from Oasis Middle School. And so the majority of those students are going to be fed from the public school system or from, wherever. And so I think we need to have a conversation about whether or not this should be a 6 through 12 school or maybe a 7 through 12 or whatever it is. But if you look at the numbers, Oasis Middle only has 840 students, which if you divide that by 3, or let's say there's 280 and 300, I don't know what the number is for middle school students. And I also don't know the percentage of those students that actually then go, I assume it's probably 80% end up going to Oasis High School, and then the other seats are filled by applicants from who haven't been at Oasis Middle. But the point I'm trying to make is, from experience, if you want this brand to maintain its culture, you need to have a feeder pattern that fills the vast majority of the seats with students who are already in the system. Otherwise, they come in and they have totally different behaviors, right? They're not used to not being able to use their cell phones during the day. They're not used to, so it's an important piece of this conversation before we say, okay, well, we're going to do a high school that has 1,000 to 1,500 people. So there were 2 questions there, I guess. Really, one is to you, Danny, about the capital, and 2 is, I guess, to the board and to Ms. Collins and all of us in general. Maybe, Danny, if you have thoughts on whether or not you've thought about, this is going to be a 9 through 12 high school, or it's going to be a 9 through 12 technical high school, which would be similar to like an Immokalee technical high school or something like that. But at the end of the day, my belief is that for this system, that we should explore how we can get more students feeding to any new high school that we put in place.
So I'll take the liberty to answer both parts because we've actually thought and considered both parts there. So with the MOU, that will be a non-committal way for us to begin conversations. What that's going to allow us to do is it's going to allow us to put together a scope and specs. We can't price something out without knowing what's the scope look like, what are the specs of the school, what does it all take to make this happen. So the MOU engages us to begin those conversations. And what's going to happen is we'll bring a design team, we'll bring the architects, we'll bring the engineers, we'll bring the construction team to the table. So as we're working through the scope and the specs, the budget starts coming together, and therefore that moves that side of the conversation forward. Your second part of the question was the pipeline. We see a middle school and we see an elementary school, whether being Oasis Charter or another entity, creating that pipeline is vital to getting to the goal. And we know what the goal is. The goal is to have the ready, willing, able, and capable workforce. And we have to get to them younger. So that is part of the vision, to create that pipeline and go deeper into the process to get to them younger.
I can add to that,
Oh,
Charlie.
please.
Remember, if we expand our high school, then we have an empty building here in which we can fill. So some of the conversation, and we just started talking about the conversation, was that the elementaries can be K through 3. Middle school can be 4 or 5, maybe 6, and the high school can be 7, 8. So if we were to move our high school to the new location, we could essentially bring 1,000 students immediately, maybe 1,200, if we could expand our elementaries and middle school, which we can, because we have so many kids on our waiting list. So that would allow us to expand our enrollment at all 3 of our existing schools to help fill the pipeline.
I had not thought of it that way, but that would be.
There's a legal issue that I want to bring to the board's attention before we get too far down the road. The city has the charter. Charter is in the city of Cape Coral's name. The second thing I'd like to point out is under our governing ordinance, I'll read it to you. It's 216:15 C4. It says the power to approve plans for locating, planning, constructing, and condemning property for school uses shall be reserved exclusively to the city of Cape Coral. The board shall have the right to provide recommendations to the city council regarding the aforementioned matters. So, I mean, the conversation is wonderful. I just want to make sure that the board was aware that there's a party here that is not at the table. Thank you.
Yeah, the microphone, please. Great, and thank you for that clarity. I think that, yeah, we're at the understanding, it is a little gray in chapter 26 on who can do said things, but really what we're doing now is we're trying to, we have to start with the board first, right? Determine if this is the right fit, if this is something we want to pursue before we even make recommendations to city council, right? So what we're doing is well within the wheelhouse of what we should be doing. We want to have this conversation to determine if this is the right fit and if we want to move forward with this. And this is that starting point right now. So, and as far as what you had mentioned before, Charlie, about filling the school, yeah, we kind of did think about that as Ms. Collins had stated, that we can now make this middle school into a different grading system, or we can have half of it in elementary, you know, the high school, other half be a middle school. We can absorb those 1,000-person waiting list, and we should actually have no issue keeping that K-12 system alive. So that was definitely something that was concerning, I think, for all the department heads as well, the meeting that discussed it. But I think that it is definitely something that we can overcome. So the only caveat to that is, do our students want to go up north when all is said and done? And I think the answer to that is going to be a resounding yes, because the opportunities and possibilities that await them at this amazing new technical school that has endless possibilities. Do you have some questions? You think, and we'll come back if you need.
Yep.
Okay. You want to say that? Okay, I'll take my opportunity then. Thank you so much, Yanni, for your presentation, as always. Yeah, I'm going to pass down. Is that good? Okay. So, a lot of people say timing is everything. I think anybody in the industry knows this is true. I think anybody in their personal lives knows this is true as well. Here we are, busting at the seams, overgrowing our capacity. We have this amazing model, the STEM school that is the envy of Florida. We are world-renowned, globally recognized, and here we are with no place to go with it. We have no, you know, the buck stops. We can't offer it any further. All of a sudden, here comes Blue Water with this presentation. Timing is everything, right? This could very well be the answer to our problems, right? This could be that feeder. This could be that next step that Oasis needs to take to become the next, you know, level, the benchmark that we are, right? So, faculty housing alone is insane, right? Right now, we're competing for teachers. If we could offer housing, we would get not only teachers, we would get the best and the brightest teachers. We would be choosing from a pool of candidates. It would change the game for sure for our school. It would also help alleviate the lottery issue that we're having at the moment, because we are at the pace that we're at now. We're going to have to change our lotteries. We're going to have to go through the lottery system because we have too many people on waiting lists. So now we cannot offer that K-12 experience any longer, right? So now any student who is now in, say, 10th grade no longer may have a spot at Oasis and might have to go someplace else, right? That's not what we want to offer our students. This could be that solution as well. Possibility for our students to go into this pipeline and receive high-paying, quality jobs, possible dual enrollments, because there's going to be universities at play here with satellite offices, entrepreneurship opportunities for our students. It's endless. Our students, you know, I honestly think that our 1,000-person waiting list is just going to end up doubling again, but that's a good problem that we'll have, right? So it also throws another curveball at us because now the sports complex that we are considering talking to the city about may be a moot point. We don't really know what that's going to look like, but you know. So this MOU, it allows us to come to the table, it allows us to collaborate, it allows us to determine if we're the right fits for each other. It's nothing that's necessarily binding. It's just the start of the process. So, you know, for me, it's a resounding yes. I think it's a no-brainer. But that's just my humble opinion. So,
just a couple comments that, I mean, Danny being here, this isn't just an overnight scenario, right? He's probably been working this for a number of years. And one of the problems that Florida has is that, and it's for VHealth as well, right, is that from a medical school perspective, those that go to a residency program, those doctors that are in that residency program tend to stay in their community once they're through the residency program. So when you look at, we have a very, very limited residency set of programs in different parts of the state, very limited here. So one of the solutions down the, is how do we build that up? VHealth, to Danny's point, is at the table. And the way John Talmadge shared with us in our Horizon Council meeting, there's maybe 2 or 3 projects that will absolutely transform Lee County. Absolutely transform Lee County. And this is one of them, right? So we're not talking about, you know, a 1-year view. We're talking about probably a 30-year view as to what transformed Lee County 30 years ago. Victory Park is going to be there. So whether, I mean, Danny is just so kind that he's almost giving us first right of refusal, right? If we don't move ahead, definitely something else will, right? And I think the other point is that there's some challenges when you're in a large public school system like Lee County. A lot more requirements, a lot more difficult situations they have to work through, that as a nimble OASIS system, we don't have to go through that as much. And I think that's the kind of partner, whether it's us or someone else, that Danny's team is looking for. I couldn't have figured a better match or better timing than OASIS and Victory Park. And so now it's up to us to see how can we make it, how can we do it.
Councilor Locke?
I'll speak.
Please.
Just briefly, first of all, Danny, thanks for being here. Your team and myself have worked for a number of years, and every time we're with you guys, I continue to be more and more impressed, and you guys' vision continues to grow. And I love to see it, compounding and building, and it's going to come to fruition. And frankly, it's an honor to be here and talk with you about the potential of this coming forward. I do just want to say a lot of the points that have already been raised were things that came to mind immediately. The sports field, for example, we have a meeting coming up regarding that. Even more things, falling on the back of the discussion we just had about the budget as far as uncertainties, and then trying to make decisions based on future potential changes is going to be difficult. But just to Danny's point, to be fair to all parties involved, I think the point that Mr. Moriarty raises, a fair one, is that there's a sort of a double-headed, I don't know that I've ever heard of it as a snake, but a double-headed scenario here where you're working with this board and as far as moving forward, fully supported, but I also, again, in fairness to you and also reiterate to this board that it's very important that the dialogue between this board and city council, apart from Blue Waters, by way of an update routinely, is something that we should probably build into our schedule as those discussions move forward, so that there's not a lot of work that goes into both yourselves and this party to be stalled at the end because there's a council that fails to have the same vision. So that's just my 2 cents. But thank you.
I had a quick question for Mr. Moriarty. I was looking at 2615, and of course the section that you brought up, which makes sense. But in A25, it says that the authority is supposed to be able to provide recommendations to the city for adequate educational facilities, and then 35, 835, the authority may make recommendation to the city regarding site acquisition, new construction, renovation, etc. And then earlier in the section, it's 6, that the authority can negotiate and enter into contracts, agreements, exclusive or limited agreements, and cooperation agreements of any kind necessary for the authority to fulfill the purposes. My question is, does that allow the authority today to enter into the MOU to be able to provide a recommendation to the city? Or were you suggesting that we cannot enter into the MOU and that the city has to authorize it first?
Because the city follows the charter. We don't know if what the city wants to do with the charter. That's one. And 2, points you raise are good, but I've also heard the MOU referred to as a proposal, and I've heard other language and other people talking about it that may be more expansive than what you may be thinking it is. So to guard against that, I would recommend that the city be a signatory on the MOU, have the MOU presented to the city, and I think that's what your superintendent is going to talk to you about. And the other thing that I like, before I hand the mic back, is that section that I referred you to says exclusive. That the city reserves to itself exclusively. So we don't know whether the city wants to move yet. So everything is wonderful, and the points you raise are great, and yes, that is in your purview, that is in this section. It's just that the legal issue is that those are some pretty definitive words. It's reserved exclusively to the city council.
Okay, do we have some more comments? Please.
First, I'd like to say thank you for everything that you've done so far. I'm very excited to sit on this board to listen to everything. This is amazing. But I do have a few questions. First, if we do move it to the high school, most of the students will be driving. So looking at more on the other side, did you think about the traffic? Number one. Question number 2 that I have, if we're doing something similar, I think your vision is more set on maybe not so. Babcock Branch, everything is in this facility where everything's right there where no one has to get up and go. Is that going to be an HOA facility as well? Those are my 2 questions.
Is it going to be a what, I'm sorry?
HOA community.
Okay, so the first part of your question, this is Oregon. Traffic counts. The way we calculated traffic counts is by maximizing use of the project. And if you get the current zoning over 270 acres, you have thousands of residences and millions of square feet of commercial use that we can't develop to. So the traffic counts are considered in that. The second part of your question, an HOA, this will not be an HOA.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just have one quick question, and this may be more regarding design, but it seems like, and again, everything sounds really, really amazing. What the idea of putting a school kind of with all of these other possible facilities, I know when I was thinking about that was how would we handle the zoning for that? Has that been sort of contemplated, especially in regards to security needs for high schools and to make sure that the schools are safe? And if we're going to have residences, is that something that you would be considering and looking into when you looked towards design? And whether or not, I know you were initially mentioning this being, that the example you gave us was something done in Denver, and I was wondering, with Florida law, has this been something similar been done in Florida at all?
So the closest thing we have here is the Gateway Charter School. Look at the Gateway Charter School system. It's built on about 15 acres of land. You have the Gartner buildings right across the street. You have the commercial offices behind it, and then you have the residential community. You have some retail. You have some industrial. So it's kind of the model that we're going after. You talked about zoning. So when we talk about zoning and land use are already in place for the development of anything you could imagine. So the zoning that overlays over the property, if you could imagine it, we could probably build it there. So that's already in place. When we talk about security, the school has to be its own separate entity, and it has to be on its own parcel, private to its own use. But we do see a campus where we have the high school and the university in close proximity. Take it a step further, we just hosted the Edison Awards. Big deal here for our region. One of the users at the Edison Awards that they run an award was for an automated golf cart. And we are talking with this group about setting up a route in Victory Park. So imagine for a minute, you are going to the high school, or you're going to the university, or you're going to the residency program, or you're going to the VA, or you're going to the hotel, or you're going to the apartment units, and here's an automated cart that's taking you from A to B to C to D to wherever your destination is. So that kind of innovation will be brought to the table too.
Thank you. So, oh, please, yeah. Oh, Ms. Pease? Yeah, please.
Just to follow up on the university kind of thinking of the next door, I don't know if we're going to get this out of you publicly, but you mentioned earlier a major state university. This is the first time I heard that. Is that public information at this point? Who's considering joining this project?
It's not public information.
It will be if you say it, so.
Yeah, I won't say it,
Okay.
but we do have an fully executed agreement with a state university. Not gonna say who it is just yet, because it's a work in progress, but we have a fully executed deal on both sides.
Well, if it's a state university, then that would be public knowledge, I assume, since you have a fully executed contract with them.
If somebody goes researching, I'm sure it will.
I don't know if I need how I would go about doing that, but I'd like the answer to that question if there's anybody on staff here.
We need a
who knows
fact
about
checker.
it. The next question has to do with kind of how that university would collaborate with the high school, right? Which is a key piece of this. You know, I've heard the term medical thrown out there and STEM and so on. Is the intention for this university to actually have a medical school, meaning where students are going to medical school to earn their MD or those sorts of doctorates, and or is the intention for us to collaborate more along the lines of something like a Florida Southwestern Collegiate High School in that way? So I'd like to understand a little bit more around how the students who go to this high school, it's an Oasis High School, would then interact or transition to the university, and what your vision is on that.
In abundance mindset, everything is possible. And the amazing opportunity that we have at the table is that we can create the vision and the goal that we want to try to accomplish. By bringing the university to the table, by bringing the Oasis Charter School to the table, we can begin conversations to see what is that path? What does it look like? Is it a collegiate high school? Is it a dual enrollment? I can tell you from conversations that the university is all about the K through 12 program. Why? Because that's their pipeline. And nobody else in the state is really focused on it. And they are all in our conversation. So the amazing part is that we get to create that.
Good non-answer.
Do we have any other questions? So I know you don't have a crystal ball and you cannot foresee what building costs are going to be, but I can guarantee you that City Council and the citizens of Cape Coral, the question they're going to ask is, can we make the lease work? Do the numbers match, right? we only get a finite amount of money from state funding and from county taxes that we can put towards that lease, right? What does your plan look like if, you know, you're over budget on the building, or if we can't, the lease just doesn't work with our numbers, you know? Is there a solution to that you see? As you said, abundance mindset, we can always find solutions. What would that look like to you?
So a few parts to the answer. Just today, our development team met, and we're seeing numbers around 500 to 550 a square foot to build out schools. Again, we're taking a facility at approximately 125 to 150 million, depending on the specs, the scope, and all that it entails. One of the benefits of us entering into this MOU is that our economic development team will also come to the table to help secure potential funding opportunities. Give you an example, the Gateway Charter School system that we briefly talked about, they tapped into the IDA bond twice. Why can't?
For how much? I believe it's 50.
For whatever it was,
Okay.
for $1 for $100 million.
Yeah.
Why can't we tap into that? And in addition to that, there's federal programs that our economic development team can bring to the table. There's state programs that so it is a true collaboration to the things that you can find and the things that our economic development team finds and brings those solutions to the table.
So you see that it's, you know, as Dr. Manai had said, you've probably already thought of this 1,000 times over, but, you know, it does fit in the possibilities that a lease that is provided through Blue Water is something that our charter school could afford.
It's an easier path to get into a lease scenario than having to fund $150 million up front.
Sure is.
It's an opportunity to buy the car or to lease the car. In this case, build what we can within a lease scenario that allows us to get into the opportunity. Because if not, the charter school is going to have to go to the council and try to raise $150 million to build a new school.
Correct.
Chris?
Yes, sir.
Just two more quick questions. One, do you have a stretch goal for timeline on when the schools would come to fruition? And number two, with the state university partner, is there a square footage or a size? You know, I know, you know, for a full-scale university like FGCU, I think they're on 800 acres or something like that. Right? So would this be more to the size of FSW? I don't know how many acres that is over there, but how big would the university portion of this be?
So
And-
it's a satellite, sorry.
No, so go ahead and answer that question.
It's a satellite location, so it will be a smaller footprint to be determined on the size. We're actually working through that as we speak.
Okay. And the second question was, I know there's a lot that has to be done here, but in your dream world, when would this high school open? When would this university open?
To give those points that this is not an overnight dream, we are so far into this process. Our ERP, our environmental permits, took 3 years to get our environmental permits in place. We're over 22 permits into this, so as fast as you or the city council moves, we can move because we're already that far into this. So a matter of design, that takes a few months. Engineering, that takes a few months. Permitting, that takes a few months. Funding and financing this takes some time. So we see within a year, this project could be underway.
Well, we truly appreciate it, Mr. Aguirre. Thank you so much for the presentation. I think that answers a lot of the questions that we had. That brings us to our next point is, I believe that with the help of the legal department and maybe the city manager's office, we've come up with some wording that we think everybody can agree with tonight on how to move forward and vote on this MOU process, correct? So are you going to read the wording? Are we going to have, okay, Ms. Collins, please?
So the recommendation, my recommendation to the board is that the Charter School Governing Authority Board approve participation in the MOU and then forward it to the City Council requesting approval to engage and execute the terms of the agreement. How's that sound?
That sounds agreeable to everybody, I believe.
Can I add that we add the city as a signatory to the MOU?
Thank you. Okay, so may I have a motion too?
Okay.
I will motion to forward the memorandum of understanding between Blue Waters Development Group LLC and the City of Cape Coral Charter School Authority to the City Council for approval, which would authorize the superintendent to execute it. We would also have the city be the signatory to execute and engage in the terms of the MOU.
May I have a second on the motion? We have a second. Madam Secretary, can we actually have a roll call on this vote?
Any discussion?
Oh. Do we have further discussion on the topic? Sorry, I'm trying to move it along here.
Monticelli,
I agree.
Jackson,
Yes?
Vaughn,
Aye.
Michaels,
Aye.
Minaya,
Yes.
Keys,
Aye.
Stout.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Great, we got some exciting things on the horizon for sure. Thank you, Ms. Collins. That brings us to our city manager's report. Mr. Mason, do we have anything today for? Sorry, no? I don't think so. Great. We will move on to our council members' report. Do we have anything today?
Sure, just a few quick updates. So I know, as was referenced, I believe, in the prior meeting, the council had a discussion regarding some of the LSI funds and how we were going to handle the lease. A little bit of money as far as the outcome of that. That's still going to be forthcoming. I do know we have the June 4th meeting that we've scheduled between this board and the council to discuss the academic fields and what the future of that looks like. Originally, I believe we had, council had on the consent agenda, approval for design services to get that process rolling, to the tune of $200,000, and the council at that point in time pulled that at my request and decided we were going to hold off on moving forward with that until we had this meeting on June 4th, so that both boards had a clear path forward, and that money was not expended for to no end. Other than that, no, I think I'll certainly have another report after we discuss the Blue Water project. As that's transmitted to us. That's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Long. We appreciate it. As always, we like to be abreast of what the city's thinking, what they're doing, so thank you for that. All right, that brings us to my report. First, we are going to be approving the superintendent's evaluation, which he received exemplary marks. Yeah. I've got it in my pile. So I'll have to- I got it. So Mrs. Collins has received a 3.925, which is highly effective. I would say that score is more than highly effective. So I think this will be easy for us to do. May I get a motion to approve the superintendent's performance evaluation for the 23-24 school year?
Motion to approve.
May I get a second?
Second.
Any opposed? Any conversation? Any opposed? That being said, motion carries. Congratulations, Mrs. Collins. That is an exceptional score. All right, that brings me to my next step. I apologize, but there are some big questions that we kind of need answered. As we all know, we are going to be having a joint meeting with City Council coming up on the 4th. But unfortunately, there are some things that we need to come to an agreement on before we have this meeting, right? We want to come to the city council as a united front. We want to have our ducks in a row and kind of know what it is we are going to be asking for at the table, right? So some of the things that we need to think about and discuss momentarily, and we can keep it brief, is do we want to pay for the full lease of the building? Do we want to go to that 3.2, which it seems like that may be where city council is going? I think that if we take on this entire lease, I think we are not indebted to the city, and it also opens up a lot more wiggle room and possibilities for us, right? Because then we will be self-sustaining. Even if we do have the lease go to its full 3.2, we're still going to have some money left over. It's not exactly what I wanted, but I think that it may be something that we have to do. We may have to relinquish that money back to the city so they can then pay for the kilowatt hours to go back to the residents. It's always been a thorn in our side since our inception that we're going to be a self-sustaining school the entire time, and they would never have to put money into the school. They put some money into the school, and it seems to have been at our detriment, right? So because of that, we have lost the access to our services that we had in-house. We've given up a lot of things in return for it. We've also got a lot of things in return. So that is something that I think we need to have a discussion on, is what do we want to happen with this lease? Do we want to just relinquish and say, go ahead with the 3.2? This also ties into the Blue Water deal, because if we are asking to enter into another lease, what is the city council going to say? Well, you're not paying your first lease, why would we ever let you go into a second lease, right? And I can understand that, it makes sense, and that may be something we need to do to progress this and move the Blue Water deal forward as well. If we're able to keep this $1.5 million, what is it we want to do with this money? Do we want to just keep it in a pool? Because I can tell you city council probably will not approve if we just keep it in a pool. But if we have this earmarked for a very specific thing, I think that there's a possibility that could happen, right? This could be for the sports complex, which may be a moot point. This could be for infrastructure here. This could be for the culinary, for the labs that are outdated, things like that, right? So if we do want to keep this 1.5 million, we have to come to the table of what do we want to keep it for, right? Or do we just want to relinquish it all and say, hey, we're going to kind of do, you know, we might want our services back, we might start dialogue on that, on what that looks like as well. So at the joint meeting, we're also going to be discussing the sports complex too. Do we want the city to build it? Do we not need them to build it anymore? What does it look like if the city does build it? Are we going to take priority? What does that all look like? Those are the things we're going to be discussing at this joint meeting. So I would like just a quick, brief conversation about what it is that, as a board, we are looking for in these purviews. So, Mr. Peace, please. And if you like, we're discussing, do we want to keep the lease at the 1.5? Or do we want to relinquish, possibly giving us that path forward with Blue Water and possibly giving the residents back their money and us being self-sustained in a way, right? Do we want to continue talking about the sports complex, or are we going to defer this conversation to see what happens later? And if we do talk about the sports complex, are we going to be having the city build it? Are we going to be taking priority over it as well? And I know that's a mouthful.
Can I go last? I've talked.
You want to go last, please? Mr. Long, you first.
Oh. Wonderful. Okay, thank you. So yeah, just from memory, trying to go down that list, I think the first one we talked about was the options. I'm in a kind of a various situation being on both sides of this table.
That's why your
so I
opinion
don't want to
matters.
lean in one way or another too far. But I do think it's a worthy discussion point that you raised with regards to the very low-hanging fruit on the other side of the negotiating table, so to speak, from council regarding moving forward, with Blue Water just cleaning the books, right? So to speak. I mean, it's really easy on the other end of this to say, hey, why, like you said, why would we double down on something that, for whatever reason, this doesn't seem to be working at this point forward. Now, switching hats again, from this board's perspective, I think that is almost entirely reliant on clearing the books so that you could move forward in negotiations with Blue Water, but that's in effect putting all your eggs in that basket. I think the only real benefit of that scenario is clearing the books for those further discussions. So it would be to this system's detriment if you did relinquish those funds to that end and that end only, as far as the only real benefit I see, other than maybe some autonomy that you referenced with regards to decisions and so forth. But just something to keep in mind as we make this decision is it would opting into that and relinquishing those funds would almost not be entirely reliant upon clearing the slate to further those discussions. So, if you don't mind, can you?
Yeah, absolutely. The second one was, if we do fight to keep this 1.5, what is it that we're going to earmark this for? What does this look like? So
Yeah, I
we're
think-
keeping it in a pool somewhere, right?
Yeah, sure. The discussion was, for me, is going to go back, and I think Board Member Pease had stated, and the superintendent said that was her desire as well, is to try to figure a way to structure that into, pay and salaries and those sorts of things for the people that make this thing tick. For me, that's where my focus is going to be, other than obvious issues that need to be addressed at the administrative level, as they come to the attention of the superintendent. I think first and foremost for me, that's where any extra dollars should be allocated.
And then
Lastly, I
lastly
think
was,
the
yeah, how do we, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, with so many balls up in the air.
I think, again, it's a really difficult decision on this board's behalf to try to put all your eggs in the basket of the what if that was just sort of presented, or how tangible it seems. Like I said, it's a great organization, and I've got every confidence that it does come to fruition, but does it come to fruition with this board or not, it remains to be seen for a number of reasons. So I think I would continue moving forward on with the desire that we'll become this mutual agreement with the city to build a facility that we decided that we were going to at least discuss and design and move forward and see what that looks like. I don't think there's any harm in moving forward in that regard. The main hurdle again remains to be the usability of what that agreement looks like, since it's going to be city funded and without being too far down that path. But I think that's a discussion we're worth having with the mindset that we're fully invested in moving forward with that project from this board's perspective.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think a review of our present lease would be helpful to understand. So, Mr. Moore already shared it expires in 2026. Changes to the lease need to be agreed upon by both parties. So what is then we have a 5-year automatic renewal, right? There's no change desired. So what is really binding? Is that lease binding at all? If one party can just say, no, that doesn't count anymore, we're gonna push this increase on you, right? So I guess that part I don't understand. So I think definitely discussing the lease, discussing the potential shift to 3.2, discussing would we as a board want to incorporate our own services as we had before. So I think that's the first part. If it's June 4th, it may be helpful to have an understanding from Blue Waters, what's their perspective on a sports complex, a field, what does that look like? Would they only build it or develop it just for the high school, or was that already planned? And does that have its separate timeline, right? I would like to push that we have, at least potentially to the end of 2026 when our lease expires, before we start increasing our lease structure. And that gives us enough time to do the proper planning with Blue Waters and see if that's that's feasible. And potentially in parallel, see what a sports complex would look like here. That's all.
Hard decisions, right? On the 1.5, if we were to keep it, what does it look like for you to go towards?
Right. For me, it's strictly a use for additional increases in salaries. I understand that potentially Lee County may be going through an increase in salaries for teachers again. So that's on the table again. So we may be, and again, all because of the higher cost of living. And then secondly, it would be a reserve for what may happen with Blue Waters.
He basically said everything I was going to say.
Okay.
So I don't want to read it all, but
I read your notes.
yeah, no, I mean, those are the exact concerns, and I think there are multiple components that play off of each other that impact this. These are not, none of these decisions are mutually exclusive. So I don't need to restate it all, what Dr. Renai said.
She's a ditto.
I too am in agreement as well with what Dr. Manai said. The only thing I would add to it is that if, in regards to those funds, I still think that it is very important that we find out what competitive salaries would be for our superintendent, making sure that we're staying in line with that. We certainly want to make sure if there's any funds available, we of course take care of, our teachers, faculty, and staff. But I think in this discussion, as memory serves me, and I could be wrong, somebody please correct me, I don't recall that we've actually addressed or had a full discussion to make sure that we're staying competitive with that. And so I want to make sure that that's part of, if possible, I want to make sure that we're staying knowledgeable when it comes to knowing what is fair and appropriate compensation in regards to our superintendent. Again, she received amazing scores, and we need to make sure that we're not just saying something, but we're also acknowledging that in some fashion.
I like to piggyback on a few things, but first I'd like to say I really like the idea of the whole Blue Water, but I do understand that we have to focus on what's in the front of us. But the major thing is that we have to keep our staff. I think that's the most very, very important, because without them, we don't have a school. So we have to really look into how are we going to better serve our staff as far as what they deserve. And when we look at this budget, so that is my major concern on that. Thank you.
So the three questions were the lease, the ball fields, and 1.5 million, right?
Correct.
So I know that Mr. Jackson is trying to get consensus here. The first thing that I heard was maybe we should agree to convert the lease back for the full debt service. I heard down there the lease doesn't end until 2026, so we should analyze the lease and see whether or not they can unilaterally require a change to the lease.
I believe it, when does the lease? It's
2026.
No, I think it's further than that. It's 20.
No, it's 26, June 30th, 2026.
Okay.
So I guess one question I'd like answered legally is, does the lease allow the city to change the lease without both parties agreeing to it? But my opinion is, and I think this is the direction the council is already headed based on the COW meeting that I attended, is that they're willing to phase this in a way that would benefit us, so we don't just, all of a sudden take on 3.2 million, right? And so that, to me, needs to be the conversation. I don't know that the June 4th, that this is even on the agenda, right? So I think we might want to add that to the agenda, because I think on June 4th, we're only, as of right now, the conversation was only going to focus on the ball fields. That's something that we might want to look at. So while we're all together, we should probably discuss all of these things. So my opinion would be, if the lease allows the city to unilaterally change the lease, then we should negotiate a phased approach. The lease doesn't allow that, then maybe you play hardball and you say, hey, we're an entity that, entered an agreement, and we want to wait till the agreement ends. As far as the ball fields go, the question was, should we continue that conversation, right, at that meeting? I think, absolutely, I do think that doing both ball fields here and ball fields, as part of the high school project that Blue Waters is going to do, that would be awesome, but I don't know if it's realistic, and so maybe we should, if the Blue Waters thing is real and we think it's got legs, then maybe we should consider slowing down here. I know one of the things that came up with the council about the ball fields at the council of the whole meeting when this was partially discussed as well was the usage of the fields, which is, is the public going to have access to these? And I know from a high school administrator perspective that can be very, very tricky. There's a reason why all the high schools have fences around their fields. It didn't used to be that way. I wish it was the way it was when I was a kid, where we could go on the football field and kick field goals and things like that. But I think if we're going to continue this conversation with the council to do the ball fields, there is going to have to be very real talk about how the city's going to benefit if we're using city dollars and not just the schools. And the third thing, 1.5 million. So when the conversation turned to potentially utilizing this, so assuming we can maintain status quo with police for one more year at least, you have $1.5 million that then goes into a reserve. I turned my head and I looked at Mr. Mason while there was conversation going on about using that in addition to the funds we were looking at earlier on the screen for teacher compensation. And I believe in previous conversations that we've had, it's been made pretty clear, I'm turning my head to look at Mr. Mason again, that 1.5 million would have to go toward capital costs. And so everything that could be covered is pretty much already covered in the picture that was painted here. And so by keeping that 1.5 million, our only options are to put that in a reserve to cover future capital costs, or to allocate it toward capital improvements here, like a culinary program, or an add-on to the building, or whatever the case might be. So it wouldn't be able to be added to the pot for the teacher salaries. It would have to be capital expenses. And just putting it in a pot and saying, hey, we're going to use this down the road to tack onto the Blue Waters project is not going to cut it, I don't think, for the council. But if you have a very real need here, and you're like, hey, we need to do a $1.5 million add-on to this building over here for whatever program that we want to add, then that could be something that we could use that for. So to summarize, I think that the lease could be phased. We say at least one more year of the current lease while we get our ducks in a row. The ball fields, we need to make sure that we come to the table with very real logistical ways that this could be used by the city, people in the community as well. Otherwise, the public dollars, they're going to say, well, this is on you guys then. And number three, if we're going to save that $1.5 million, we need to have a very real, tangible thing that we're putting it towards for next year.
Well, I certainly appreciate all the dialogue, and it definitely gives us a better understanding of how we're going to go into this joint meeting. It gives us a little clearer idea of what the board wants as a whole for sure, even though there's so many variables up in the air. I have to agree with Member Peace that I think a phased-in approach is probably the best case scenario. It's a win-win for everybody because we get to, recoup a little bit of the loss for the meantime, and then eventually the city gets their full 3.2. We're off the hook for it. Taxpayers can get their money back for bill on ours if council so desires. So phase-in actually sounds like it's the best case scenario for everybody, right? As far as can they break the lease, there's a lot of different opinions. It's been said that they cannot break the lease. It's a binding lease that we have until 2026. Again, that's something that we will discuss at that said meeting. Oh, Mark, please.
So I want to read the lease to you, but I don't want to address the speculation. I think I architecture that's happening on the board, so I just want to read it to you. On page 1 of 13, the lease term. This lease shall commence on July 1st, 2021 and end on June 30th, 2026. So then when you go to renewal, the renewal section, which is Article 3 term, Section B, it says, I'm going to read it to you, this lease shall be automatically renewed for 5-year terms unless terminated by either party by giving written notice as provided in Article 1, not less than 180 days prior to the expiration of the then current term, unless the parties mutually agree to a lesser notice period. It continues, during the term of this lease, lessor and lessee may amend the terms of this lease at any time by mutual agreement without having to terminate this lease. Any such amendments shall be in writing and signed by the parties. That's all it says.
I'm no attorney, but mutual agreement sounds like the key word to me. Again, I think it may be a moot point anyways. As I said, I think the phased-in approach is probably going to be best case scenario for city, for school, for everybody involved, right? As far as ball field is concerned, it does not hurt to continue to talk to the city about this because it has been years in the making. So let's not hinder progress. Let's at least continue the conversations. Let's at least continue the conversations. And I know that as far as building a ball field goes and the maintaining of it, that is definitely not something the school can do itself. So I don't even think it's an option for us to go that pathway, right? We do not have the funds to build it and to maintain it. So that is certainly something we are going to have to rely on the city to do. The real question is going to be who has precedent in the fields once they're built. And I think that we can all come to some kind of conclusion on that, because we already do that now with the park at Oasis Elementary North. So, I mean, I don't see it being a whole lot different than an agreement like that, right? So, I think that as a board, we kind of have a better understanding, a better agreement of how we're going to go to our joint meeting. So, thank you for the dialogue. I appreciate it. Is there any other dialogue on these topics? Jackie, do we have, a very specific need for this 1.5 if we were to phase it in and we had some extra money that doesn't go to teacher pay? Do you have this outstanding need that has to be done, or project that would really benefit the school that we can bring to City Council and say, this is what we want to use these funds for?
We have 2 big projects at the high school. Updating the culinary department, and updating the science labs in the center.
So I think that's certainly something we could go to City Council with and say, if we phase it in, please allow us to use these improvements for these things.
That would be true. And also, I want to bring to the board's attention, according to Mark's LCI analysis, we can't afford to pay the full debt service agreement until 2027.
In 2 years.
Did we say that? Because I can't hear very well.
We didn't say it, but yeah, I think that's why the phased-in approach was the correct approach. And I think City Council had actually mentioned that as well, as phased-in might be the way, because they saw that shortfall for 2 years, so. Great. All right. That brings us to foundation report. Do we have foundation report tonight?
We actually do not.
Music to our ears. Staff comment. We have a presentation by Mrs. Concan.
I'd like to introduce Jack Buchanan. He's one of our high school teachers. He's organized an entrepreneurial club for our students, and they're also here. And he's just going to give the board a little bit of an update as to all the great stuff they're doing. I can't hear you. Go ahead.
These poor kids are.
Jack is one of our Chamber of Commerce Teacher of Excellence. See that over.
Yes, congratulations on that.
I'll turn it over to you.
Hello, as I said, I'm Jack McCannon. I'm a teacher here at Oasis High School. I teach right now government economics, but I just need to do this presentation. We'll be adding entrepreneurship next year as well. So I'll kind of give you an overview of our program, and then I'll let our amazing students tell you kind of a little bit about themselves afterwards. So where we began, so in October we started our club. We started with informative presentations about networking, business mindset, business model campus, just introducing students to business. And then we went to challenges and games, kind of using different products, Play-Doh, stuff like that, just to kind of get in that mindset of running a business. And then we partnered with FGCU. So we brought in guest speakers from FGCU. So we brought Ms. Wilson, who's an entrepreneur in residence at FGCU. And then we also brought a former OHS student, Jenna Fay, who is a current student at the College of Entrepreneurship. So both of them came back, spoke to our students kind of about business, entrepreneurship, and what that next step can look like after high school. I do have a video from Mark Cuban. If you cut that mic on there by any chance, if you can turn that microphone off or the video won't work. But I reached out to Mark Cuban in about November, December, and he kind of responded to our students.
That's awesome. Sorry, I can't be there, but I'm just going to tell you something.
Can we start over? Thank you, sir.
Saturday at Oasis High School, Mr. Kincannon class, sorry I can't be there. But I'm just gonna tell you something. There's nothing stopping you from being an entrepreneur right now. There's no reason why you can't create your own company, grow it really, really big, and come on Shark Tank and take my place. Or better yet, take Mr. Wonderful's place. I'm tired of him. Please. So go out and do it. You don't have to wait. Start now. Go out there, start a company, do amazing things. Thanks, Mr. Kincannon.
So it was super cool to have Mark Cuban reach out. I kind of emailed him. He actually responded to us about 10 minutes later with that video. So I tried to get him to become like a virtual guest speaker. He wasn't available, but he was kind enough to send us that video. So we greatly appreciated that. And then as we continued through the year, in February, we actually went to FGCU to give our students kind of a look at what college entrepreneurship looks like. So our students got a tour, they got to do interactive workshops and presentations from the staff at FGCU. So our students can kind of see what it's like for students at the school, and again, building our students so they can get that mindset of what an entrepreneur is going to look like if they decide to do that. And this led to us, so we were lucky to get a couple of grants to kind of help us build our program. So first, we got a $7,000 Glenn Bailey grant, and this gave us sublimation equipment. So we can print mugs, t-shirts, coasters, all that stuff, and it allows our students to learn how to manage and run a business. Okay, so we can talk about it, we can read about it, but giving our students actual real life experience on how to run a business, I think is very important. And this is what that grant has allowed us to do. We're able to sell and fundraise and build up our programs, so we can do more field trips and stuff like that. And we also got a charter school foundation grant that we were very grateful to receive, which gave us a 3D printer so students can actually see their products come to life and help us enhance our presentations. And then we also participated in the Entrepreneurship High School Challenge on April 3rd. So we were the first school in the county to attend this presentation. Only Collier County has ever attended this competition. So we were the first school in the county, so we're very proud of that. We did not win, but we're going back with a vengeance next year, hopefully to win. But we were beating out schools that have been doing this for 7 years. And from Collier County, and so we were second place in our category. So we're very happy about that. This allowed us to network with community leaders and just build our foundation with FGCU. They're super impressed with our students. The middle school's going back in a couple weeks to do a presentation over there. So we're just building that program, so it's just going to be amazing working with FGCU. And then what does our future look like? So in the fall, we're starting our entrepreneurship class here at Oasis. This will allow students to get certified in entrepreneurship and small business. And then once I get my master's degree, students will be able to take dual enrollment classes here at Oasis with me and get up to 6 college credits through the College of Entrepreneurship. So it's amazing. I'm very excited for the future. So I'm going to kind of kick it to some of our students and then kind of tell you a little bit about themselves.
Hi, I'm Ryan Francis. I'm one of the founders of Entrepreneur Club. This actually all started as a club, me and my friend Dylan. This is Dylan Pisano over here. And I just thought it was really cool how we started off as just me reaching out to Michigan Canada with Dylan, saying like, hey, can we start a club, entrepreneur club, we're interested in business, something like that. And it made it all the way up to a board full of councils. And I just think it's really cool how something as small as that can project it all the way to the future like this, as you just saw with our presentation.
Hi, I'm Nathan Wagner. I'm a member of the club, and I just think it's really cool how we have this. You know, I have friends at other schools. I talk to them. They don't really mention they have something like this, so I kind of feel like lucky. You know, especially like Mark Cuban. I feel pretty lucky that he reached out to us, so I can like brag about that. But yeah, it's really cool. I'm learning things, learning how like a business functions. Presenting is a big thing in the future you're going to need for any career. I learned a lot about that here. But yeah, I think it's just really cool how we have this going on right now. So.
Hi, I'm Dylan Kinsell, the other founder of the club. And it was really cool just seeing our little thing that we started, because me and Ryan have had some experience with a few little businesses, side things that we tried doing to make some money, and we wanted to find more people that were interested in stuff like that. So we made this club just to find more people who are interested in the same thing, and so we could learn and grow together and find the people that we're with to help us with things we were interested in. And it's just crazy how big it's got, and it's cool that's going to be a class next year. So, yeah.
Hi, good evening. My name is Michaela Bendizu. I am a freshman that is currently attends Lucis High School, and I am one of the only freshmen that actively is involved in the entrepreneur program, but it's not going to be a class, so I was like, wow, like that's amazing. As a freshman, I knew really nobody. I started from the top of the school, 8th grade, and then you go back down to freshman year, so I was like, dang, like that hit hard. But it's been an honor not just being a part of a club, but again, having all these opportunities, big opportunities, and again, like Ryan said, presenting to a board. I wanted to join a club, you know. I didn't see myself talking here today at the city council meeting, and thank you for having us.
So we thank you for your time. If you'd like to connect with us, we got our Instagram, we got our website if you want to learn more about that. And then if you got any, I don't know if you have any questions for us or any of the students.
I just want to mention real quick how remarkable this is. When we're really thinking about the skills we should be teaching our kids when we are really thinking about the skills we should be teaching our kids for futuristic jobs and opportunities, we can't just be knowledge-based. We have to be innovative. How many years have you been teaching?
This is my second year teaching, first year at Oasis.
This is a gentleman that I talked into staying in education. He came to Oasis, he found an incredible purpose, he inspired, truly inspirational, a vision with a few students that said, hey, can we have a club? And now, through what they have done, through their innovation and their time and their exploration, learning how to be entrepreneurs. Now that's one of the top jobs when we just went to the Learning for the Brain Research Conference. We started learning about what we really need to be teaching kids to prepare them for the world of today. This is where it's at. And then he says, hey, I want a class. And I'm like, okay, dream big, Jack. We gotta make sure kids sign up for it. So many kids have coveted this class and want this opportunity as an elective. And so now, we're going to be offering a class at our little Oasis where kids can learn how to be entrepreneurs. And if you have never explored FGCU and the entrepreneurship program, oh my gosh, cutting edge innovation, students that are coming out of there, you guys got to see that. Big business opportunities. I killed the battery, I talked too much.
It's going to take 30 seconds to get done.
This? Okay. So it's just going to be an awesome opportunity to branch our students with, feed our students to this next level innovation. And we're going to be offering this class next year. And I hope that we can offer as many sections as we can. You know, it's a mathematical equation, building that master schedule. And he is an exceptional government and economics teacher. But we will be offering that entrepreneurship program. And I think couldn't pick a better teacher of the year for the chamber. What an exceptional, innovative teacher and an exceptional group of students that created this. You pioneered it here at our school, and that is really what it's all about. So thank these kids for staying here this evening and learning and sharing this information.
But don't go anywhere because I got questions. First, Mr. Concan, congratulations on your Chamber Teacher of the Year Award. That's a very impressive second year in. And congratulations on this program. It seems to be a huge success. I hear a lot of the kids talking about it. As far as the kids, I had the opportunity to meet a few of these young men during my many meetings with Ms. Collins, and they were very, very impressive. I'm sure that you all are. So it's very hard to come up here and talk in front of a crowd. So kudos on that. That's not an easy thing to do. So, but my question to you is, how many of you have started your own business?
Me and Dylan are the ones that have found our own business before, yeah.
And you've actually made some money on said businesses, right?
Both have, yeah. So I owned a clothing brand before, and I did affiliate marketing through TikTok. I sold things through videos and basically just my audience is how.
Sure.
Sorry.
Great. And you made some money as well.
I also have a few other brands just like trying out things, and I do some art stuff, so I typically run visual designs for clothing, everything like that. If I ever want to change something up, I just do it myself, so if anyone wants it, it's free, just experiment.
I'd like to add that he has how many followers on Instagram right now? 15,000 followers on Instagram through his drawing content, and he definitely plans on exploring the entrepreneurial aspects of that kind of following.
That's great.
We have the future business leaders in our presence right now. So thank you. Do you have any more comments or questions for the gentleman and the lady? Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Secretary. Almost there. We're getting there. That brings us to no unfinished business. We will move to 16A, new business. Ms. Collins?
Yes, I'd like to request approval and an award for the, this is for a server replenishment system. It includes licensing, hardware, software, installation services, and a 5-year warranty. We had this in the budget for 2025. However, we did come into some additional money this year, and we are going to save some money because next year IT is telling me that the cost for the server replenishment will go up 10 to 20%. So I'm asking that the board approve this request to make this purchase, and that you authorize me to execute the purchase orders, change orders, and any related documents.
Okay. So do we have a motion for Mrs. Collins to approve purchasing of the software?
Motion to approve?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion on the matter? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 16B.
16B, this is, I'm requesting the board approve the upgrade of our existing camera security system. It's met its 5-year term, and we are going to not only upgrade the cameras, add a couple new cameras, and make sure that the cameras are pointing in directions where you can actually see things. We have some cameras that point at palm trees, benches, sidewalks, so it's due. And the cost of the new system is approximately $140,000. I'm asking that you authorize me to execute purchase orders, change orders, and any related documents.
Okay. And can we get a motion for Mrs. Collins to purchase camera systems for $140,482.47?
Motion to approve.
The purchase of the camera system.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any conversations or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll be installing over the summer.
Great. That brings us to final board comment. Do we have final board comments tonight? Mr. Peach, please.
All right, first of all, good discussion tonight. Thank you all for being thoughtful in our approach here. I want to give a shout out to Mr. Concanon, Jack. I had the pleasure of being his assistant principal at South Fort Myers High School for 4 years, and I saw him grow as a human being. He was the editor of the yearbook and was very entrepreneurial in what he did at South Fort Myers High School. So it's really awesome to see him come here, and I hope that the students that he has will be inspired by him to be able to become teachers here at Oasis High School one day, or go into the profession while they're doing their entrepreneurial things on the side. To that end, I noticed that the presentation, the staff comment portion of the agenda didn't start until 7 o'clock, and I saw one of the moms of the students with an elementary age student scurry out as soon as they were done. So I'm wondering if it's possible to move those types of presentations up on the agenda in the future towards the beginning, so that they can spend time with their families and not be here until 7:15 or 7:30 at night. So that would be a question I would ask if that's possible, Ms. Collins. Other than that,
We normally do
thank
that.
you.
Yeah, we
Might as
typically
well.
do.
A little different, but normally we do, yes. Okay.
I just want to say thank you, everyone. I'm looking forward for June 4th, but I do have one question for Ms. Collins. For the 1.5, if we don't do the fields, besides what you asked for, is there anything either in elementary, middle, or high school that you feel that we should add?
There's always something to add. We need some HVAC replaced. We need a generator that needs to be replaced. There are large ticket items that typically the landlord would fix, not the lessee. So I hesitate to make those comments. But when you think about updating the culinary department and doing a study to figure out what you need, we're talking several $100,000. I mean, we're not talking little expenses. We're talking major renovations. So those are the two biggies that really, truly need our attention, because they directly affect how our children live in this environment.
Is it possible that if we could also think about music in the future as well for our students?
Meaning,
Marching band, that kind of thing?
that's not a capital improvement that we can use those funds for. But we're working towards that already. We're getting there. We need a football field. We've got chorus, we've got band at the middle school level now. So by the time that's built, hopefully we'll have something in place.
Okay, thank you.
Great. As always, I appreciate the dialogue, the time and effort that everybody in this room is putting in, because none of us are getting paid for this. And it takes a village to make the school work, and we're all part of that. So thank you so much for all everybody sitting back and all the things too. We do see, we do appreciate it. So, I think that this Blue Water thing is an exceptional opportunity for us that we really need to consider. I really look forward to our joint meeting with the City Council so that we can maybe figure out some of these logistics, right, that are up in the air. So that being said, our next regular board meeting is going to be June 25th. That's going to take place at 5:30 p.m. in council chambers. Meeting is adjourned.